Uh, as usual, waiting a predetermined amount of time before I actually say anything useful. Until then, the islands are pain. The islands are so much pain. So much danger. So much danger. Weaponsmith? Don't look. I'm just checking on certain mats that I had. I'm so close! But anyways, how to start off a guide video, because I haven't done one of these in a while. But I guess welcome to my stream / video. And as the title says, I was told to make a one guide 2022 Onigiri. So this is how it's going to go, because evidently I've never made a one guide, at least to my memory. And this is basically the I mean, I would say that this is more for newer players, not anybody advanced. If you're somebody that's been playing as long as I have, or if longer, obviously, this guide I wouldn't think would help you out at all. Or if it does, that is cool too, I guess. So this is the rundown of it, right? So for those who play wand, those are the people that generally don't want to get up close to their enemy and want to, as I say, pelt pebbles, which is what I do when I'm playing wand, or I'm using bright homing here. But wand overall, I think, is one of the best classes in the game. And the reason why I think that is just because a lot of their base skills is just one solid element. So when you toss a fireball, you know it's pure fireball. When you use a Oriflock, you know it's pure rain. Weight of the Earth Sublime here is also another good example. It's just pure mountain. So you don't have a lot to worry about. So like with wand, the skill you see and basically the element associated with it is pretty much bare bones. So if you use any universal skills, however, it will still remain, I think, multi-elemental. Like I think Lance, for instance, is still impact and fire. So watch out for that if you ever want to make wand. So without having to go into a build, because this is 2022 Onigiri, and I don't feel like anybody is incompetent to where I had to like open up a spot like in a little slot screen to show them what stats you need to go into or whatever. What you should do for wand, and this is for anybody that wants to purely be wand, I would recommend first going for your 105s, which will be the Talon Breaker Magatama. And that Magatama gives you about 10 dark element. As wand, your main element for your class-specific Magatamas are going to be dark, unless it's an event mag, like the event we have right now, which is Soaring Peak Magatamas. The Soaring Peak Magatama wands are going to give you 50 mountain, along with a slew of other tasty little abilities in them. And that within itself is pretty valuable. And so, on top of that, let's just say you got your 3 Talon Breaker Magatamas, so then you ask yourself, oh, okay, so what am I going for next after my Talon Breakers? After your 105s, which they're called 105s, and I'm pretty sure I've said this multiple times in a row, the reason why they're called 105s is because they are level 105. So they are dubbed 105s for anything of that nature, like the Wicked Wolf Mogatama, Skyrending Mogatama, Dancing Water Mogatama, Attack Storm Mogatama, are called 105s. And then you have your next step up, which is your 117s or your fused mags. Now, they're not called 117s usually, they're just called your fused. So things like Talon Breaker fuse, Wicked Wolf Mogatama fuse, things like that, etc., etc. Now, your fused, I would say, is a good middle mag for you. You're going to want to know that you're doing your fused Mogatamas simply because of one reason alone. Is that your fuse will let you know if you really want to be asked to get a Tempest. Now, Tempest farming is in no way hard. It's just tedious. It gets boring in certain spots. And there's certain bosses that you have to do that if you don't have to Vanguard, make it really hard. And then you're going to want to get carries and you're going to kind of feel like, well, like you're not contributing. So, your fuse, your Talonbreaker fuse, gives you 30 dark. And if I'm not mistaken, gives you 20 fire, which will actually put that little rumor to bed right now, see if it gets you fire or not. Let's just keep going until we run into a Talonbreaker fuse. Okay, so this Talonbreaker fuse, Mogatama, gives you 30 dark, 15 fire, not 20 fire. But you can see right here, this 117 mag gives you 70% rank 5 plus 1 skill force. If you're below 50% HP, gives you another additional 50. So that's pretty good within itself. Now, the reason why I say that your fused mags are kind of like your pivotal turning point in the game is because right around the time that you get your fused, you're usually strong enough. Mind you, if you farm the appropriate weapons and you get the appropriate gear and the appropriate ornaments, you're usually strong enough to start farming out event Mogatamas. Now, something I'm going to say here, because this is 2022 Onigiri, and I believe that the meta's gotten really boring since then. If you want event mags as a wand player, get them. For all intents and purposes, get them. Now, if you know that you yourself are going to be wand for the rest of the time that you play this game, like you're strictly just gonna be wand, and you know you're never gonna be another class, get your event mags to help you out with the elements that you are lacking. One second. Excuse me. Still a little bit under the weather. Yeah, so get them for elements that you lack. Like the Kotonora Redux has 40% fire, 40% wind, 40% ice, no negatives, gives you attack percentage, and it gives you defense percentages as well, along with cooldown cut plus 20, and a good amount of crit force. That's an excellent mag. I would recommend that everybody at least makes one Redux mag, so they're not in the shitter later, because one Redux mag can help you defend against a lot of stuff in this game. So, and the reason why I say, if you know you're going to be purely wand, to just cover the elements that you're lacking, because obviously, by the time you get your Tempest, your Talonbreaker Tempest is going to have 50 fire, excuse me, 30 fire, 50 dark, 30 crit force, 15 cooldown cut, and it's going to give you also additional attack, like flat baseline attack and not percentage attack. This will help you out so much down the road that it's ridiculous. And if you're wearing 3 of these things, you're going to have 150 dark. You don't have to worry about ornamenting Tempest unless you really want to. I've always told people that's your way to go. Do it if you want to. Don't do it if you feel like you're going to get shitty ornaments. So, a really good thing about one is that if you use a 3 Tempest build plus a Sparrow of any kind, and you have at least 30 critical rate, a lot of your skills that you'll use are going to hit hard. Like, trust me when I say they will hit hard. Most of the time, you'll be in the green instead of in the red, because I find that a lot of wand players study the elemental weaknesses of the boss a little bit closer than other players tend to do. But again, that's because I said, or like I said earlier, wand players generally have one elemental skills. So fireball is just pure fire. Aeroflock is just pure rain. There's no second skill to help them out. So they have to study the enemy closer. And it's the same thing for their sublimes. Their sublimes, like Weight of the Earth Sublime, are generally only one element as well. NGO. Okay, whatever that means. Anyways, continuing on, because I don't know what that means. Losing my train of thought. Whew, attention of a goldfish. Now, again, like I said earlier, pure elemental skills. So I tend to see that one players tend to pay closer attention, like I said. So your Talonbreaker, Magotama, Tempest are going to be some of the all year round Magotamas that you can get that are going to be really great with Dark. If I wasn't purely, if I wasn't like maining Odachi so hard as like my main class out of all the other subclasses that I play, Wand would have been my other choice. Sometimes I wish I did go Wand over Odachi, because Wand seems to be getting some kind of special treatment every now and then, and Odachi's just kind of left in the dust. But that's personal salt from an Odachi main that just wishes to not get slept on. But so yeah, your Talonbreaker, Tempest, they're going to come with so much attack that you'll find that certain builds will help you more than the Redux will. But do be aware that the Tempest will always come with less defense than a Redux mag. And because of that, there will be where you'll have to choose survivability over DPS. And what I mean by that is, would you rather hit cap 4 times than die? Or would you rather hit 8 mil 20 times and not die? Because the time that you die and then you have to use a soul egg, you're missing out on DPS. So I will tell you this to Wand users, all new players, existing players, and people who are here simply because they want to know why the hell is mainly an Odachi user talking about Wand, for fuck's sakes. Sometimes survivability is the way to go rather than being a glass cannon. So my ideal Wand build, if I was going to be using Wand for nearly everything in this game, I would try to make sure that a Redux mag is in there somewhere in my build. I would make sure I would have the appropriate accessories on for whatever the boss happens to be weak to. And this is assuming I'm not coming in with the Vanguard, right? So this is assuming I'm not coming in with the Vanguard. I would then put on 2 Talonbreaker, Tempest if I know the boss happens to be weak to Dark. If the boss is weak to something else, I personally would put, like, say if the boss is weak to Ice, I would put on like 1 Redux, 1 Frozen Hell, 1 Talonbreaker Tempest, and like 2 Makami dolls, and a Chocolate Lychee, like a Sparrow. I think a Sparrow would fit. I don't think a Chocolate Lychee would fit. Then I'm gonna make sure the Sparrow has like crit force or something. That way I know I would have a lot of base attack. This also isn't including the title, which I'll cover later. You'll be able to do so much in such a little time. With that build, you'll have the defense from the Redux mag, and if the boss is weak to pure Ice, then use your Ice skills accordingly. If you didn't have a chance to grab Ice Punishment, God rest your soul, I think you'll have to deal with a different kind of Ice skill, which Ice skills on Wand are alright, but at last I checked, they're slow moving. So it's kind of a bummer there. But if the boss happens to be weak to Ice and you're not using a Vanguard, you'll get, like, in my idealistic build, you'll get like 60 Ice, 60 Ice from the Frozen Hell, 40 Ice from the Redux, so that's 100 Ice. 2 Makami dolls will give you 40 Ice each, so you're looking at a solid 180 Ice right there, just alone. If you happen to be able to cop a Frozen Fortune weapon, I think is what they're called, so I think they're Ice weapons too. There you go. You have your ice weapon, and then you have your Tempest as backup to give you additional solid attack. And if you're legitimately a new player starting out, the beginner build to intermediate build that I would use to get me through story, because I think story is something that you should just clear straight away. Story is not too hard. You can clear it by just going in normal mode and just having your fuse. You're fine. Lucifer's weak to dark anyway, and he's also neutral to fire, so you got that fight pretty much in the bag. I'm just saying. The only one that would kind of be a bitch would be Mephi, but the game gives you vanguards to compensate for something that you might be missing around the first clears, and then if you go in on normal, you'll be just fine. But that being said, let's go over to Amaterasu, wherever she is on the islands. That's Momotaro. No, it's not an Amaterasu. Amaterasu. I'm so glad they fixed this. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Now, as you can see here, there's a whole slew of titles that you can get right now. This would be kind of good as a beginner title because it doesn't have any qualifications, and you kind of get holy, which is your negative element. So you can have like positive holy to kind of mitigate, and you get 3 additional mind and 2 wisdom. Wisdom and mind. This gonna sound so silly, but mind, wisdom, and dexterity are the 3 stats that you want to build as a 1 player. This one's also kind of alright. And let's see what else. What else? This one's also this one's kind of pretty cool, but make sure to look at the qualifications here. Just see what you need to do in order to get the title. So right here, clear decisive battle at Sekigahara Western Army's quest. So you only get this title if you're in the Western Armies, I guess, which kind of sucks because I can see 1 player has it. So I know 1 player guaranteed has the Sekigahara Western Army's quest cleared, and myself obviously. So that's 2. But you get 2 dex, 3 mind, 2 wisdom, which is the 3 stats that I just recommended that you get. Now, the titles I'm specifically looking for but cannot seem to find somewhere over the rainbow. Skies are blue. Alright, okay. So the actual key titles that you'll be looking for are the titles that give you affinity along with your main stats. So this right here, if I was a beginning 1 player and I had a combined level of rank 4 plus 1 skills 100 or higher, I would cop this title right here. Assuming that I had Amaterasu high enough level to get this title, because it has 3 wisdom, 3 dex, 10% wand affinity. And there's other more advanced titles, I'm sure. Let's try to find it together. This one's alright. This one's like a baby version of the title. That's like the best title to get for wand. And I'll show you that later. People use this as well. Don't know really why. I mean, it gives you critical, gives you dex, but it's not the best thing in the world. I mean, you can see 4 out of 300 players use it. This one's alright. Wouldn't personally recommend it. See, now this one's pretty good. I haven't seen this one ever before. But your base stat critical must be 20 or higher. I'm missing 1. And have a level 30 or higher Yosen Kamatachi in my possession. It comes with 40 mind. I mean, really? 40% wand affinity, 3 mind, 40 SP, and 5 wind element. Now, 1 has elemental skills in the ways it's Kamatachi, and I think it's called Tornado Storm. Kamatachi is the best one in my opinion out of the 2. Just being honest. 1 player has this, so it must be doing the world for them. If I can't find any others, I'll just show y'all the best wand title in the game, in my opinion. 20 peers. Might cop that for a video. I remember using this at one point. This one's also kind of alright. If you need item drop rate and money drop rate, you need some mind and wisdom. This one's also pretty cool. Also kind of bitchin'. And this one's alright too. That's the 3 elements that I was recommending. That's holy element. Medea KG. I remember getting this title and having to get my mountain up to 30 was such a bitch. Oh, Dante Masamune. Okay, now here's a note. Sugi Kenshin might be also a good title to cope because you get a slew of elements, and while you don't get any affinity or any of the 3 base stats that I was talking about earlier, this obviously helps you out in a myriad of other ways and might help you with some negative elements that you have. It gives you 15 holy, 15 slice, 15 fire, 15 pierce, and 10 impact. Which, there are some one skills that are pure impact, so they may help you in the way of that. Takeda Shingen, which gives you mountain, wind, fire. Sword affinity is completely useless when you're wand. This one's alright if you're really lacking on lightning element, but the ones that I will show you, which I have equipped it right now, I can't show you otherwise, is, in my opinion, the best. This one's so good. I wish we could still have access to this, but I don't know what it is. Now, the one title that I have, which also doubles as a staff title and Odachi title, is called Shotoku Taishi. It gives you 6 mind, 50% staff affinity, 50% wand affinity, and 50% Odachi affinity. It also gives you 30 holy element. Now, this is obviously really good because it covers that negative element that I was talking about earlier. If you end up using holy mags, you don't have to worry about missing out on holy because you have 30 holy right there. 6 mind to help you with your mind stat. Wand affinity plus 50%, which you won't find. I don't think you'll find anything better other than, like, I think the one other one that I showed you earlier. Besides that, you also get staff affinity. You know, Odachi affinity doesn't really matter. Nobody plays Odachi. But, let me stop. Anyways, so the staff affinity is also helpful because whether you're going to be purely wand for the rest of your playthrough or purely axe or purely sword, having a support staff is always useful. And having that additional 50% staff affinity will help your invigs hit higher damage, will hit higher recovery numbers because invig and meditation base themselves on your total attack for that staff and not skill force and not anything else but what is your attack with that staff. Depends. That and the rank of your meditation and the rank of your invig. But back to one, Shotoku Taishi is the best wand title you can ever get. And it's not that hard to get. You just need 100 wisdom and 100 mind. And if you're playing pure wand, oh, that will be so So easy for you to get Shotoku Taishi. It's going to be the easiest title for you to get because you're wand. So you're going to have 100 mind. You're going to have 100 wisdom. You're going to have 100 dex too. But I'm pretty sure you're wondering, Flex, why in the hell would I get 100 wisdom and 100 mind along with 100 dex? Well, wisdom and mind are going to help raise your SP recovery rate, which wand skills, as you can see right here with that 350 into 81, require a lot of SP. And if you don't have a good meditation staff, SP potions at the ready, and assist, which I don't see why you wouldn't have any one of those things, or like you know, missing out on all three of them, you're going to run out of SP a lot. And if you got to sit there and use SP potions and switch to your meditation staff every so often, you're missing out on DPS. And besides, to use meditation on yourself, you're going to have to give up SP. So if you're pure wand, I say it is essential. It is essential for you to pick up an assist character. You level them up high enough to where they can heal themselves, not become squishy and die every 10 seconds, and that way they can give you 40 SP. I recommend that for any class, really, but especially for wand. So I've covered titles. I've covered certain Mogatomas to use. And so now, I guess for tips, don't block with wand unless you're going to perfect block. Wand and staff have this unique thing about them that when you're blocked, you get your SP back, like it regenerates your SP, but it also takes away your durability. So keep that in mind. If you're an early wand player and you just don't want to use staff for whatever reason, in your 4 weapon slots, you can have, or even if you are one, and you're in the beginning, and I would always recommend having a staff on you. So you could do 2 attack wands. So 2 wands that you know that you want to attack with. And if for some reason you're just unlucky and don't have meditation, you don't have good SP potions yet, and you don't have an assist character, you can have a 3rd wand right here, right? And that can be your SP recovery wand. Because since you're a beginner in this guide, I'm assuming you're a beginner and you're not an advanced player. And if you are, and if you learn something from this, all the better. Like I said earlier, you're not going to be concerned about how long it takes you to clear the dungeon. Your number one concern is just clearing the damn dungeon. So you can run outside of an enemy's range and just regenerate your SP. And then you can just keep on going after your SP is recovered. And since you have ranged attacks, and if you feel like you're too squishy, you can just kill the ants or the mobs and the boss from far away. Which will be one of your perks of being wand. So make sure to take complete advantage of that. Because not taking advantage of that would just be pure silly. It'd just be silly. So don't be silly. Play smart, especially because you're a wand, so technically you're a mage. And you don't want, clumsy Odachi users like me showing you up. Don't let the big sword people being all like, I am smarter than you. Don't let us do that. You won't ever be able to leave it down. But oh wait, nobody uses Odachi. Ignore that statement. Nobody uses Odachi. But so I recovered, basically it showed you the good things about it. One, as you can see here, has evade warp. Evade warp is kind of like your roll and kind of like a perfect block. You get iframes and you don't get hit. I think that's one of the coolest skills ever that we get in this video game, simply because of the fact that you can just dodge a move. I don't know how many times I've dodged Odin in this event when he does a laser beam and I'm like, no sir, and I just use evade warp. So make sure to have an evade warp wand on you. And even though that you're pure wand, I will say to make a lunge step sword. And so you're probably wondering, Flex, what's a lunge step sword? Well, don't worry, supposed beginner user of Onigiri. The lunge step sword is, simply put, a skill that you put lunge step on 3 times in a row. And you're not going to be using sword for damage. So you can just roll around with lunge step. Pretty bitchin'. And it will get you around places faster. And assuming that you're a new player, go ahead and pick up Brownie and Onigashima. Excuse me. It'll be easy to get, and it's the fastest mount we have in the game, and it'll get you places faster. Just like using Lunge Step, especially in dungeons that I know I won't be using my Vanguard right away. So, I've covered all that, right? All that's been covered. It's all Gucci. It's all fine. What else is there to cover, really? Because I'm thinking. I'm using my brain. What is there else that we can cover? Oh! Easy. GG easy. Thought about it. Just thought about it. Something that you can do also to kind of cover your bases when you're playing Wand is, again, I guess this kind of goes for all classes, but especially for Wand. The reason why you want your wisdom in mind at 100 is that the higher you get your wisdom and your dex, so you also want your dex at 100. So the reason why you want your wisdom and your dex to be as high as possible, as along with giving you SP, which that's what mine mainly does, but wisdom also helps out in that. Your natural cooldown cut is going to be the highest, and your crit rate is going to be the highest of any other pure class user in this game, and hybrids as well. So you'll have the natural highest crit rate, so you'll always have a natural guaranteed 20 critical, and most skills are multi-hitting that you're wanting, so you're just going to want 30 critical for a lot of your builds. If a lot of your skills are going to be multi-hit, if they're going to be single hit, you want it at least at 50% crit. But either way you slice it, you're going to have 20 critical, and you're going to have the highest natural cooldown cut. So this is going to make it easier for you later on when you're making advanced builds to get to max cooldown cut faster, or a good measure of cooldown cut faster, and it will make it easier for you to get critical because you already have a natural 20 critical. So keep things like that in mind, like for whenever you're playing the game, and it just, overall, I think it's just, you know, better for you. It's better for anybody, really, when you're just playing Wand, to know what you're fully getting yourself into. So a big, massive, huge con to Wand is that if, for most of the skills that are Wand based, purely Wand based and not universal skills. And what are universal skills? Universal skills, on a side note real quick, universal skills are skills that every single other weapon in this game can use. So, for Wand, if the enemy is too close, you're going to end up doing less damage. So you're going to have to find the sweet spot, which Evade Warp takes you away from the enemy. So you can use Evade Warp in both a defensive and offensive path at the same time to help you deal your sweet spot damage. And your sweet spot damage is when you're the perfect distance away from your enemy, but you're just close enough to deal that maximum damage. But considering all the enemies in Onigiri move, you're not always in this position. Your lunge step sword can also help you adjust to that. Just be prepared if you want. Sometimes losing your cool because the enemy decides, I don't want you hitting me with the full effect of your fireball, so I'm just going to mosey up on and make you hit 1 million damage when you should have hit 2 million damage. Or 4 million damage when you should have hit 8 mil. Or 5 mil when you should have hit cap. So prepare for a lot of that nautical nonsense. Usually a guy takes me over an hour long to do, but I mean, Wand's like simple to know. It's one of those classes that are easy to understand but difficult to master. Simply because of the fact that you're going to get to a point where you're going to look back at my guide and you're going to say, well, they're wrong about that, or they're wrong about that, or they don't know what they're talking about here, but they were correct everywhere else. And that's fine. If you end up seeing me again and you discover something about Wand that I didn't know about, feel free to let me know. Because, you know, I don't care if I get corrected or not in this video game anymore. I mean, it's a video game, 1, 2, I mean, you know? So, that being said, have fun with the game. Don't get too heated about it. It's just a video game. I've pretty much covered everything for Wand. I mean, there's nothing that really needs to be said. Like anything else that needs to be said. Really? Like I said before, Tempest Grind is a pain in the rectum. For your Talonbreaker Magatama recipe, you can farm Basho Island here in the islands to get it. There are other locations to get your Talonbreaker Tempest recipe, your Talonbreaker Magatama recipe. Your Talonbreaker Fuse recipe, the easiest place to get that is Oni POR, which is Oni mode, Palace of Rain. You will be getting your Talonbreaker Fuse recipe from Palace of Rain on the moon, which is convenient because the boss happens to be weak to dark. So isn't that your lucky day? And then your Tempest recipe, is nobody's selling it in a stall, is dropped by Shooting Doji around Dragon. You'll find that in Yellow Dragon Spire or Dragon Spire Purity Space to get your Tempest recipe. Obviously, when you make your 105s, make your 105 weapons alongside them. And when you make your Fuse weapons, make your appropriate level weapons along with the Fuse. And when you make your Tempest, go for whatever weapon you feel like you need to go for at that point. So basically, when you upgrade your mags, upgrade your weapons. And don't go upgrading anything else until you upgrade your weapons. Because your weapons and your Magatamas, along with your accessories, but your Magatamas and your weapons are the main reason why you're going to be doing damage in this game. Your titles and your accessories help accent that damage. So play smart. Play to the opponent's weaknesses, because if you're Wand and you accidentally bring in your fire build when the boss is a fire boss, you're in a shit ton of trouble. So remember, if you're Wand, don't go tossing the fireball at the fire boss in the fire level in this video game. That being said, I don't really have anything else to say. Have a lot of fun with Wand, and if you find that Wand's just not your cup of tea, you can always go to Adachi. You know? But nobody plays Adachi. So, y'all have fun out there. Stay safe. Don't let COVID kill you. Or, COVID 19, as they call it. So, yeah. Have fun as I disappear into the nether.